Shalom, and welcome back to B'nai Noach Academy, Thoughts on the Torah. Please remember to hit the like button, to subscribe if you haven't done so yet, and most importantly, to share this wisdom and inspiration with friends and family. When you look in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, verse 6, where it discusses the order of the service of the holiest day in the year, that is the Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, and describes the whole procedure of how the high priest should behave and what he needs to do and when he needs to go into the Holy of Holies. In verse 6, it says that he, meaning the high priest, in this case Aaron, should offer his offering, his sacrifice of atonement, that is his, meaning it comes from his own possession, from his own property, and then he should atone on his behalf and on the behalf of Beito, which literally means his house, which means his household. Who is this referring to? Who is this household? Well, the Talmud tells us, quote, Beito zu ishto. When it says, quote, his house, it means his wife. So he has to atone for himself and for his wife. From here, we know the important rule that in order for one to serve as high priest in general, particularly on the holiest day of the year, on Yom Kippur, on the Day of Atonement, the high priest has to be married. He has to be actively married. In fact, this goes so far that there is even a suggestion from one of the sages that he should have to have a second wife. This was at the time that it was okay to marry more than one wife, just in case one passes away. That isn't the law, but still, the thought of it is that it's so crucial that he has to be married, that he has to be in an active married relationship in order for him to represent all of the Jewish people, in order for him to bring atonement for all the Jewish people. Question: what does this teach us? What is the lesson here? This is a very practical lesson to all of us, to each and every one of us, and each and every day of the year, not just on Yom Kippur. Here, the high priest is engaged in the holiest, loftiest of services, which only comes once a year, and it's going to be performed in a place which you can only enter once a year, the one place in the world, the holiest place in the world. In other words, this is obviously the most spiritual moment, the most spiritual occasion of the year, and yet the Torah says, I need this person to be anchored down to the ground. This person has to be practical. This person has to be living a realistic life. I'm talking about from a material perspective. If he is not married, if he doesn't have a family, if he doesn't have, so to speak, his feet anchored down on the ground, and he is soaring up there in the spiritual realms in the heavens, that's not a person that can represent the people. That isn't a practical person. This isn't somebody who can bring atonement for the people. You see, what God is teaching us is, as holy as we become, and as dedicated as we are to serving God, we need to do that within the realms of practical, realistic, day-to-day life, living in the material world. And that's why we don't find in Judaism, in the Torah, we don't find it to be an absolute virtue to continuously fast, or for one to totally refrain from living in this world, from being abstinent, from not having a normal home, not having a normal material life. On the contrary, of course, one should not indulge. One doesn't live the material life just for the sake of the materialism. One lives it in order to be able to serve God better, out of comfort and peace of mind. That is true. But at the same time, if one is going to be, quote, a priest of God, one is going to serve God, especially representing others, one needs to be married. One needs to be practical. One needs to have a normal family life, which includes having a home and having everything that comes with it, in order to be able to be more connected to God. Because really, when we think about it, the material world is not a contradiction to God's existence. It actually complements God's existence because God created this world. God made this world, and God wants us to be in this world. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We didn't put ourselves here. And that explains why, in order for somebody to be a proper leader, one has to have their own practical life, not just in the spiritual, but also in the material.